1 in 8 HITC Sevens viewers are based in the United States of America, a brilliant nation which is currently locking horns with my own in a battle to see who can be the most backwards. I have to say, you're winning right now, but there's fight in this old dog yet. Anyhow, given the large number of Americans who follow HITC Sevens, I feel that it is my fiduciary duty to make an MLS or US related video at least once every couple of months. My inspired idea this month was to make a video ranking every MLS designated player, or DP, from best to worst. That sounded like a great idea until I learned that there have been over 200 DPs, so doing so would take me a few days and would result in a 2-hour video that no one would want to watch. Also, just a heads up, you Google the term best and worst DPs at your own peril, you've been warned. Instead then, I'm just going to be sharing my views on 7 of the worst designated player signings in MLS history, and if this video is a success, I could always make a video about the 7 best at some stage as well. For non-US viewers, or just anyone who doesn't know, each MLS team is allowed 3 designated players. All MLS teams operate under a salary cap of just over $4 million, which would prevent them from signing most high-profile players. A designated player's salary is not included in the salary cap, and some DPs earn more than an entire team's cap on their own. The 2 best paid players in the MLS right now, Jozy Altidore and Carlos Vela, both earn in excess of $6 million. Okay, now that everyone knows what one is, here are the 7 worst designated player signings in MLS history, in my humble opinion. Innocent EMEGHARA. The San Jose Earthquakes have a pretty mixed record when it comes to designated players. Their first DP, Giovanni, was signed from my club Hull City, where the Brazilian had starred in the Premier League. I thought he would make mincemeat of the MLS, but the former Barcelona man flopped in California, and he would have been a candidate for this 7 if he didn't hold such a firm spot in my heart. On the flip side, the Quakes also have the longest serving DP of all time and one of the most successful, in the form of the division's all-time record goalscorer Chris Wondolowski. The San Jose DP who gets us started in this 7 though is Innocent EMEGHARA. Born in Nigeria but raised in Switzerland from the age of 13, EMEGHARA won 9 caps for Switzerland before arriving in the States. EMEGHARA had played in the top flights of Swiss, French, Italian and Azerbaijani football before joining San Jose as the club's 3rd designated player. A pacey frontman who had bagged goals at a similar level to the MLS in the past, EMEGHARA exhibited his talents with a brilliant goal against Seattle Sounders on his debut, but unfortunately that wasn't a sign of things to come. In fact, in 2 seasons in San Jose, that was the only goal EMEGHARA scored. A single goal in 2 years from a striker signed as a DP is pretty impressive, and EMEGHARA is somewhat fortunate to only come 7th. The 31-year-old now plays for Fatih Karagümrük, who won promotion into Turkey's 2nd tier last season. Meester. Toronto FC's first 2 designated players were both brought in from Deportivo La Coruña, namely Julian de Guzman in 2009 and Meester in 2010. De Guzman was hardly a revelation, but Meester was far worse. A graduate of the Real Madrid Academy, Meester had scored with some regularity in La Liga, particularly for Valencia. In the 2003-04 La Liga campaign, only Brazilian duo Ronaldo and Julio Baptista outscored Meester, and even won a couple of caps for Spain in 2005. In fairness, Toronto signed him about half a decade past his best, and he had done little in the last 4 years prior to his arrival for both Atletico Madrid and Deportivo La Coruña. He would continue in the vein of doing very little in Canada, failing to score a single goal in 9 games in the MLS, and scoring his only goal in a 2-1 victory against Cruz Azul in the CONCACAF Champions League. So poor was Meester during his time in Toronto, the Reds' faithful burst into a spontaneous rendition of chanting 2-1, even Meester scored during that victory against the Liga MX side. In the end, Meester departed $1 million richer after just 6 months in the MLS, without a single MLS goal to his name. 9 months on from not being kept on by Toronto, and presumably without an attractive offer having come in for his services, Meester retired, aged only 32. In a recent twist of fate, however, Meester returned to Canada to take charge of Canadian Premier League side Atletico Ottawa, who are currently owned by his former club Atletico Madrid. SHAUN Maloney. One ex-Hull City player may miss out, but I am less emotionally attached to SHAUN Maloney, so I don't feel quite so bad about his inclusion. What's more, Maloney was actually significantly worse in America than Giovanni, so I don't think he can have too many complaints about this one. A short but gifted footballer, Maloney was a tricky and creative operator who could play out wide or through the middle. He enjoyed 2 excellent stints with Celtic, as well as 4 years with Wigan Athletic. In fairness to Maloney, he came into a pretty turgid Chicago Fire team in 2015. That season, the club was marooned at the foot of the Eastern Conference table, 7 points behind the next worst team, Philadelphia Union. Chicago Fire didn't win a single away game in 2015, and they probably would have been beaten by the cast of the NBC show by the same name had the two faced off that season. Maloney scored 3 goals and made 2 assists in 17 appearances, before leaving Chicago Fire high and dry after just 8 months in Illinois. When offered the chance to return to the UK by Steve Bruce at Hull City, Maloney forced his way out of the Fire, going on to play a cameo role in the Tigers' return to the Premier League. Maloney retired 12 months later, and he now serves as one of Roberto Martinez's coaches with the Belgian national team. Mustafa Jarju. Vancouver Whitecaps have had a couple of wretched designated players over the years, and yes, Barry Robson, I am looking at you. Robson's time in Vancouver looks reminiscent of Pele's time with the New York Cosmos when one compares it to the catastrophe of Mustafa Jarju though. The Caps took a real risk when they signed Jarju as the designated player in 2011, who had at that stage only played football in Gambia and in Belgium's lower leagues. Despite having been prolific for then second tier and now defunct Belgian outfit HITC Mons, Belgium's second tier was probably a lower standard than the MLS even 10 years ago. Nevertheless, there was a real excitement in Vancouver about the Gambian's arrival, and it would prove to be one of the biggest letdowns in MLS history. Jarju didn't register a single goal or assist in 10 games. Not only that, he only managed a measly 3 shots on goal during those 10 games, which is so dismal it is borderline impressive. It doesn't bode well that there are any DPs who can be considered worse signings than Jarju, who is a candidate for the worst ever MLS player, never mind designated player. Having been totally anonymous for the Caps, Jarju's contract was terminated after just 6 months in British Columbia. He returned to HITC Mons after that disappointment, but the 33-year-old hasn't had a professional club in 3 years now. Rafael Marquez. Rafael Marquez is the most difficult DP to assess in many respects, since cases could be made for both him topping this 7 and him not even deserving to feature. That is because when Rafael Marquez actually played for New York Red Bulls, he wasn't that bad. In fact, he was oftentimes the Metro's best player when he played, but that is easily forgotten given his situation off the pitch. New York Red Bulls signed 2 high-profile designated players from Barcelona in 2010, namely Marquez and Thierry Henry. Both players had been very impressive in Europe, and Marquez supposedly became the second best paid player in the MLS with a $4.6 million salary, bettered only by David Beckham. Whilst New Yorkers took to Henry, they were almost always hostile towards Marquez, and understandably so. During his time in the Big Apple, Marquez only featured in 36 of a possible 73 games, missing many through injury, but also a significant number through suspension due to his ill discipline. As mentioned, when on the pitch, Marquez, albeit slow, largely defended astutely, and he was among the best distributors of the ball in the league, but that isn't how Red Bulls fans will remember him. He'll be remembered for his perceived arrogance, famously stating that his teammates weren't on his level, his persistent injuries, and his untimely dismissals. Far from the worst player in this 7, but certainly among the worst signings from a financial perspective. Raise Mboli. From a very basic standpoint, the United States churns out better goalkeepers than it does footballers in any other position, and for that reason, not many MLS clubs waste a DP spot on a goalkeeper, and when one does, invariably, it tends to end badly. It was a particularly bad move on the part of Philadelphia Union back in 2014, given that they had already signed a very capable goalkeeper in Andre Blake as part of their regular squad via that season's MLS Superdraft, in addition to having former US Youth International Zach McMath in their ranks as well. Quite why they felt the need to utilise a DP spot on a new goalkeeper, unless someone had told them they were going to be allowed 3 on the pitch at once in 2014, is unknown. Nevertheless, in came Algerian international Raise Mboli from Bulgarian outfit CSKA Sofia. He made 4 mediocre appearances in the 2014 season, followed by 5 fairly disastrous ones in 2015, leading to head coach Jim Curtin announcing that he would never play for the club again. A signing that was as unjustified as it was unsuccessful, and Mboli goes down as one of the EU's worst signings of all time. The Paris-born shotstopper, who remains Algeria's number 1, now plays for Al Ettifaq in Saudi Arabia. Denilson. In top spot, the worst MLS DP signing of all time, in my humble opinion, is Denilson. Denilson combines all the key attributes of a dreadful designated player, having cost a fortune, being built up to have enormous expectations, and then been truly dreadful on the pitch. Make no mistake, Denilson is one of the most naturally gifted footballers to have ever turned out in the MLS, but you certainly wouldn't have known that from his time at FC Dallas. The 2002 World Cup winner, who won 61 caps for Brazil, joined FC Dallas on the day of his 30th birthday in 2007. That's much younger than many footballing greats upon their arrivals in the US, but then again, Denilson's decline had come much sooner than most as well. A mercurial but occasionally inspired talent, Denilson had quick feet and a sensational Brazilian flair. In 1998, he set a world record transfer fee when he signed for Real Betis, but he failed to really justify his enormous £21.5 million price tag. Yes, in 1998, that was an enormous fee, and not the amount you'd pay for a striker with one Premier League goal to their name. By the time Denilson joined FC Dallas, he had already had a brief stint in Saudi Arabia, and alarm bells ought to have been ringing in FC Dallas's ears as to whether Denilson was here to roll his sleeves up and take America by storm, or just looking for a few last big paydays. It appeared to be the latter from his performances, which were sluggish, oftentimes lazy, and distinctly lacking the excitement and imagination that had previously made him one of the most sought-after players on earth. Denilson made just 8 appearances for FC Dallas, scoring once, before fans and coaches alike began to lose faith in him, and he had retired by 33. That's it for my 7 with regards to the worst MLS DPs of all time, except for the fact I do have a minor correction to make. Although he is commonly referred to as one, upon further inspection, Raisin Bowley was never actually declared by Philadelphia Union as a designated player. He was just an exceptionally high-earning regular squad member, and therefore he has no place in this 7. With that in mind, I would probably add Marcelo Gallardo or Nery Castillo in 7th place and move everyone else up a spot. So my apologies for that late correction, but thank you all for watching. I'm wishing good luck and good health to all of our US viewers and subscribers, and indeed to all of you across the globe as we live through these most unusual of times. If you have any other MLS or US related video ideas, you know that I am all ears, and maybe I could get another one out around the time of Independence Day. Thank you all again for watching, you know where the like button is if you enjoyed this video, and as always, feel free to subscribe to HITC Sevens.